Hey, everybody, and welcome to Sanity. Dave and Allison back here. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Great guest today as we talk about the government shutdown, the implications, how long it lasts, and if Democrats ultimately have to give with the Speaker of the House in Virginia, who knows how to deal with both sides, Allison. I pressed him on his thoughts on Democratic leadership, and sounds like he's not entirely sure what to make of national Democrats at this moment, but feeling good in Virginia.
He used two adjectives that I know got your attention. They were quite negative. So stay tuned for that, everyone. And also, he does tell us what he believes the tipping point will be for when Democrats have to stop the obstructionism, or you can say tactic, or you can say fighting for what they believe in with this government shutdown. So here now is the Speaker of the Virginia House, Don Scott. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for joining us. So let's start with what is so pressing nationally right now, and that's the government shutdown.
Oh, we're feeling the effects already. Literally, in our communities right now, there are people who are furloughed. They are not working. They don't know when they'll be paid. You have, hundreds of thousands of jobs that are being impacted by the shutdown. And so I feel like, until this thing is resolved, there are going to be people who continue to be hurt. And it's unfortunate.
No, there are no meetings, none scheduled between the two sides. How long do you think it'll last? It looks like it will drag on weeks.
I hope not. I'm hopeful that, the president and the Republicans will make a decision to at least put in the subsidies that were funding the healthcare exchange to give people opportunity to be able to continue to buy healthcare. The governor here, the Republican governor here, asked those folks to delay sending out those premium increase rate hike notices that normally go out in the next week or so. He asked them to send them out like the last week of October because he even knows that this is going to be a devastating impact on the election, devastating impact on Virginians, and he's trying to delay that pain or the notification about that pain for as long as possible.
But Speaker, Democrats could just agree to the continuing resolution and fund all of this. I mean, they have decided to make the issue here be the subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. It doesn't have to be. And Republicans say that they'll negotiate about things like that later. So what do you think about that Democratic tactic?
I mean, I think they are really they really have no choice. Either they stand up for the values that they were fighting for already, which before the one big ugly bill, even if they don't get what they want here, they have to make a stand because there are too many Americans who are going to see that sticker price go up dramatically November 1. But I think, they're in a situation. This is what happens when you lose elections. You don't have the same amount of leverage, and the president is threatening to fire these workers permanently. And I think that's a tactic that, that may work because we don't want to see people get hurt. And I would not fault the Democrats for changing their tactics if the president decides that he's going to fire all of these workers permanently. I would understand why they might want to protect them. The Republicans gave the billionaires the tax cut up front, but they want to wait to give regular everyday people the premiums to pay health care later. And so I wish that, they would be even handed. And I think they have an obligation to fight for everyday hardworking Americans.
It was just 2 years ago the Democrats had the exact opposite argument that you do not use shutdown politics to push your legislative priorities. It was Hakeem Jeffries, it was Nancy Pelosi, literally the identical argument. Why is it different now?
I think it's very different now. I mean, we have a president that is using a totally different tactics, that's sending the National Guard into our cities, which most Americans disapprove of. That is using ICE agents with masks to snatch sometimes American cities out of the cities. I saw some very horrifying photos that came out of Chicago where some kids were being put in plastic handcuffs to move aside while ICE repelled onto their building in American cities. So I think we have the fight. The arguments are different now. This president needs to be brought back down to be tethered to reality. The things that he's doing now, he's going to continue to push. And I think the Democrats have an opportunity to show that they'll fight back against a myriad of these policies. And one of the easiest ones to fight about is making sure that we're fighting for people to get access to health care. Like it's a basic human right. And so I think this is an opportunity that we should be fighting back.
Speaking of that, I don't know if Virginia is in a particularly tough spot or if there are lots of states like this, but I was reading that your rural hospitals and your free clinics are already closing, and that there's something like, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know, 600,000 Virginia residents that are possibly going to lose Medicaid. What's going to happen in Virginia if none of this gets resolved soon?
I mean, that's why this fight is so important right now, to fight about healthcare right now, that we fight, that we show the American people. Just because you're the minority doesn't mean that you just fold. You have to fight back to let the Americans know that you have some principle. And one basic tenet is that everybody ought to not only have access to healthcare, but actually be able to afford it when they get there. And so I think the fact that all of these rural hospitals in Virginia have closed, the fact that they're trying to prevent Americans and Virginians from knowing that these rate hikes are about to take place directly as a result of passing of that big ugly bill. And I think we have an obligation, I think, to push back. I think they realize what's happening. If you look at our current polls in our governor's race, Abigail Spanberg is doing pretty well because she's focused on the issues that Virginians care about: healthcare, education, our economy, and jobs. And I think she's going to continue to do well because she is the grown up in the room talking about the issues that really affect kitchen table everyday its citizens.
I want to return to that in just a sec, but first, for the last few years, Democrats nationally have been on the wrong side of the messaging battle, if you will. Do you think Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer are the right men for this moment?
Well, I'm in the state house. I'm gonna avoid that question. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. Oh, no, no. But look, I
That
think
sounds like a no, sir.
no, 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 no. It doesn't. I'm not going to say that. I think they could be the right people for the moment, and I think we have an opportunity with the jury still out. I mean, at the end of the day, you're the chefs in the kitchen, and you have to cook the meal, you have to deliver. And so, at the end of the day, folks are going to be able to see whether they deliver or not. And I think that's what anybody should expect. I have a very good relationship with Leader Jeffries, and I have a lot of respect for him. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to continue to deliver. They're going to have to lead this effort in these midterms next year. When you're in the minority, you always, are going to look a little feckless and weak because there are things you can't deliver because you're in the minority. And we're in a very partisan environment right now. So I'm in the House in Virginia. I'm in the majority. I can deliver. We can get to deliver because we have the majority. I think you've seen Hamilton. That's the last thing I'm gonna say, Dave. You've seen Hamilton. You don't have the votes. If you don't have the votes, you,
You
you
don't
can't
have
get
the
it done.
votes.
Yeah, you don't have the votes. You don't have the votes. You don't. You know the song, so
I love it.
we don't have the votes.
I
You
can
know what
sing
I'm
the
saying?
whole damn thing,
You
man.
sing it. Listen, I
But
needed you
but
to visualize. I needed you to feel that energy. I mean, that was our civics lesson. If you don't have the votes, yeah, you don't have the votes. You're done. And I
but
think
listen, Hakeem Jeffries does not have your charisma. You just said the words weak and feckless.
I said weak and feckless if you're in the minority. It's not Hakeem Jeffries. I think any minority, if you want to go to Kansas Democrats or if you want to go to Virginia Republicans, they're weak and feckless right now because they don't have the majority here. They don't. And so when I grow my majority here, they will even be weaker and even more feckless here in West Virginia. When Abigail Spanberger wins the gubernatorial race, with they Winsome Sears, have you seen her? She looks pretty weak. And so I don't know if you've been watching some of those interviews, but when you look like you're losing, you're losing. And so at the end of the day, that's kind of what we are. But I think when you talk about messaging, I just get tired of Democrats. Oh my God, y'all drive me crazy. You keep talking about this messaging stuff. All right. Messaging, you lose when you don't have the megaphone. And I think right now, Democrats have the message. We do have the message. People care about healthcare. People care about job loss. You're going to see here in Virginia in about 29 days in a wake up. I want you to come back and have me on, Dave and Allison. I want you to come back and have me on. You're going to see a message delivered, what strength looks like, because we're going to win this election. We're going to win it big.
There are two strategies right now, and one is clearly Gavin Newsom's, which is not at all like the messaging battle that Hakeem Jeffries is fighting. Some hate it, some love it. Which do you think is more effective? He is poking fun. He is going after Trump in a very Trumpian manner on social media. And Hakeem Jeffries uses these big, long words and big, long sentences that don't always land.
I think you need both. We can walk and chew gum. I think you need, somebody who's the grown up in the room, Hakeem Jeffries, and you need the little smart alecky kid in the back of the room throwing spitballs. That's Gavin Newsom. And so I think you need both of them. You know what I mean? You need both of them, and you balance it out. And I think we got to continue to do that. I think, Gavin is having fun. And, one of the things about, Democrats, sometimes we don't look like we enjoy it. I enjoy this. And there are people who look like they're just not having fun. They miserable. Like, why did you get into this if you don't like it? Say what you want to about Donald Trump. Dude look like he having a ball. Like he trolling the world. He not just trolling Democrats. He trolling the whole world. He trolling. If he's in Britain, he's trolling them. Wherever he goes, he's trolling and he's having fun. And I think we have to, we can learn some lessons from what Gavin is doing. He's having fun, and it's okay. And I think Leader Jeffries, he has a different responsibility and a different role. He has to literally govern in D.C. And so it takes some time to be able to do that. And you have to be able to continue to engender the confidence of your colleagues. I mean, the reason he is leader is because he has the votes within his caucus to stay in. And we all know that is a tenuous position when you try to satisfy just a small constituency of your delegation in
If
Congress.
only trolling weren't so fun to Donald Trump. That is where he seems to be having the most fun, and golfing. So those two things are very fun for him. I'm not sure how that pays off for many Americans,
Well,
but
well, at the end of the day, you saw him come in here yesterday at the Navy event here, and he came into Virginia. To his credit, he did not talk about Winsome Sears. He just didn't mention her name during his speech. But at the end of the day, it's a slap in the face to Virginians to come here during a shutdown when people are struggling. People are trying to figure out if they're going to be able to make payments to their mortgage. People are going to figure out how they're going to take care of their kids, get school clothes, put food on the table. And he is in here celebrating while he is single-handedly causing this shutdown.
well,
And
let
so,
me ask you this. Let me ask
yeah,
you this, Mr. Speaker, because he went in and spoke to the Navy. I mean, he went to Norfolk
yeah.
and he played YMCA, his one of his favorite songs. And it seemed like, from what I read, I wasn't there in the room, that he got a pretty positive reception. What was your impression?
I mean, it looked like it was positive. I mean, but you got a captive audience there. I mean, what they gonna do? They the freaking Navy. I mean, they in uniform. They can't boo the commander in chief. Say you got a captive audience. And it's the same way. You saw those generals last week or 2 weeks ago. They looked like they had no guns to their head to be there. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, these guys have to do what they have to do because he's the commander in chief. But he also continues to hurt veterans benefits. I'm a veteran. I'm a Navy veteran. And I talk to these guys for real. I live in the community where nothing but Navy guys, and I'm in the Navy community. And so, matter of fact, I was looking out of my office yesterday as I was working the aircraft carrier that's getting some ship repair done right outside my office window. So I know these people. I know what they think. They have a job to do. They are honorable people. They believe in the chain of command, and so of course they're going to give him the kind of raucous, um, welcome that I respect the commander in chief. I don't like Trump, but I respect the office, and I think that's how most military folks in this community are. We respect the office. He won the election. We have to respect him, but we don't necessarily have to like everything that he does.
How about this that he said in front of the Navy over the weekend in Virginia? I have it here.
But we have to take care of this little gnat that's on our shoulder called the Democrats. They want to give all of our money to illegal aliens that pour into the country. And, I have a bigger heart than they do. But the problem is when you do that, they come in by the millions. Everybody wants that, so you can't do it.
So what do you as a Navy man, and what do you hear from current troops, how they feel about being thrust right in the center of this political debate?
I do hear from folks, and they hate it, but they understand that the president is on brand. That's part of his brand. Like it or not, he's going to use them as a prop. And at the end of the day, they expect him to say things like that. And I mean, for Trump, that wasn't so bad. It could have been worse. That's just for Trump. So at the end of the day, he said way worse stuff. That was like Trump light. Like that was him behaving. So I think, if that's the worst he's going to say this day, I think we're going to be okay. Because another thing is, we have to stop responding to everything they say. We got to stay focused on the things that we care about. And when you talked about messaging earlier, I think, as long as I believe, especially in Virginia, I guess I'm different. I believe people want to know, like, are you going to help us improve our lives? Are you going to try to lower the cost of housing? Are you going to try to lower the cost of groceries? I think here that's working. I think that messaging is working. And I think if we stay focused on that, I think people are going to give us an opportunity here in Virginia. And I think they'll give national Democrats next year an opportunity to lead again if they're going to focus on those issues.
Mr. Speaker, how does this shutdown end and when?
I think it ends, with folks when folks have enough pain points that they can't go on. And I think for the president, I don't think he cares. I really don't think he cares whether they negotiate or not. It's unfortunate that he's a person that says he likes to make deals, but he won't come to the table. So I believe that Democrats are in a bad spot because I just don't believe they will allow these people to be fired. And just if I had to say whatever my druthers were, if I had to make a prediction, whatever point where the president really does fire some people permanently, I think then the Democrats are going to be in a position where they have to negotiate and concede just to get those people rehired. And I think that's a strong point. We don't want to see people get hurt. The fact that the president of the United States, the most powerful man in the world, would use these workers as peons in a fight to benefit wealthy billionaires to continue to extend their tax cuts and not allow people who are working hard every day but can't make the gap up to pay their healthcare premiums. The fact that he would favor those billionaires over those hardworking folks every day, I think that's really that's a sad state of affairs for our country.
Yeah, he likes the optics here. I think this allows them to continue to implement Project 2025. I think Democrats will have to give here. Back to the Virginia governor's race, and Abigail Spanberger is doing very well. I think I saw her up 12 points in the latest poll, which is more than double the margin that Kamala Harris carried the state by. How central is Trump in that race? And if she wins, how big an issue will he be?
Well, I think right now it's not Trump that's the big issue. It's his policies. It's his policies. I mean, people are, he made a promise when he ran that he would lower inflation on day one. He would end wars on day one. He would end Ukraine war on day one. I mean, and I think people are like, okay, he may be a little hyperbolic. We know he's doing, but we're gonna give him a little time and he's gonna fix. He hadn't done anything. In fact, things have gotten worse. And so at the end of the day, I think the reason that you see her doubling what Kamala Harris did is because there were people who said, I'm going to give Trump a chance. And now they're saying that he didn't deliver and he can't deliver. And that's why he's not even campaigning here. He has not campaigned one day in Virginia since this election has been going on. Now, we're talking about Donald Trump, person we know with the biggest ego in politics, that he has an opportunity to come somewhere and campaign, and he's not showing his face. And as far as Virginia is concerned, he's in the witness protection program. The only time he'll show up is to be here surrounded by guys in uniform. All right. So he can have a photo op. Other than that, he didn't take a picture with Winsome Sears. He didn't show up with Winsome Sears. And Winsome Sears probably told him, like, please do not come. She did not run up to take photos with him. She stayed the heck away from Winsome Sears. And she probably begged him not to show up, but he came anyway. But he's not endorsed her and he didn't do anything with her yesterday. I listened to the speech yesterday. I hope y'all listened to it. You know what name I didn't hear yesterday? Winsome freaking Sears. Not one time did I hear Winsome Sears.
Once.
That's her real name.
Donald Trump came to a state in the middle of an election that's 30 days away, and he did not say the candidate's name for governor, the Republican candidate's name. Come on, man. You can't make this stuff up.
I promise she noticed. Yeah.
Because of all of that, I mean, because of this particularly unique race in Virginia, and as Dave was saying, Kamala Harris did carry the state. How is this a bellwether? Why is Virginia seen as a bellwether for whatever happens there next month for the rest of the country?
I think it'll say if we overperform Kamala Harris, it's a huge message. If we overperform Kamala Harris, if Donald Trump underperforms here, Winsome Sears underperforms here, and she's doing everything in her power. Winsome Sears, she's not trying to win. I got a secret. She don't care if she wins. All right. Y'all let her know.
Why not? Why wouldn't someone running for governor care if she wins?
To not underperform Donald Trump. And I think she's running and hoping that a miracle comes down to help her win. She knew when she ran that the history of Virginia, It's only been one time in my memory. Y'all can Google it. Maybe 100 years, where the person the opposite the part the same party of the president won. That was Terry McAuliffe in 2013. Every other time in my lifetime, it's been the opposing party. So we already know. So she already knew she was up against that history. So she's hoping. This is a hail mary. If she loses, everybody gonna say she was supposed to lose. She wasn't supposed to win, and that's and she's gonna lose. Unfortunately for her, she's gonna lose big too. I'm hoping for a landslide because I'm at 51-49 in the House, and I love to get to like. I'm not gonna be greedy. I'm not gonna be greedy. 53, 54, 55, something like that. I'll take it.
I would imagine the attorney general race is not helping your party a whole lot right now. And the Democratic candidate, Jay Jones, who some texts have been uncovered from 2022, where he joked about a colleague being shot twice. Should he drop out? Doesn't seem like in this environment in which political violence is at its peak, that can be just apologized away.
Well, I made my statement on this, and I'm gonna be clear. The person who he made the statement about is a friend of mine. It's Todd Gilbert. He's the former speaker. He was the minority leader in the last 2 years. He is a very good friend of mine. I've spoken to him about this incident as recently as yesterday. And so, no one should ever uh, put those type of words in writing. Should never even think them. And so, at the end of the day, Jay has to be held accountable for his words. But voting has already started. I don't think he's going to drop out, and so we have to continue to move forward. And I think we'll have to figure it out. But I think Jay he's gonna have to respond to this probably a little while longer as we go through this. But I think he's made his statement. He's apologized vehemently. He went on camera. He's talked to Todd because I've talked to Todd Gilbert. He's spoken to him directly. And so like I have pers- Todd and I have done when there was an assassination attempt on the life of President Trump. I immediately called Todd Gilbert. We did a joint release of a statement condemning all political violence. I condemn political violence from whether it's coming from President Trump, talking about Lynn Cheney needs to be shot in the face, or whether it's coming from Jay Jones. I condemn any and all political violence, and I continue to do so. And I think we need to turn the temperature down in this country. I said, Jay needs to take a minute to just stop, reflect, and pray, because those are not the type of words that anybody should put in writing. But I really believe across the country we need to pump our brakes on using this type of language. The president continues to try to, vilify folks who are Democrats as the enemy within. And I think that's not good language either. And I'm not trying to excuse anybody else's language, but I think, we have an election that's down the road. People have already started voting. And so I don't think we can do anything right now, but continue to move forward.
Mr. Speaker, I do want to talk about your personal story. It's really fascinating. You are one of 6 siblings. You were raised by a single mom. You went to Texas A&M. You served in the U.S. Navy, as you've discussed. You got a law degree at LSU, and then in the 90s, you went to prison for 7 years for a drug conviction. You were later pardoned by President Biden. Oh, and then I read you donated a kidney to a neighbor. I mean, you have really seen life from many angles, and I'm just wondering how that informed your daily life.
You know, First of all, I've been blessed. And I've been blessed to be able to overcome adversity. I've been blessed. I had a mother that really believed in the value of education. She loved to make us read. She didn't graduate from college, but she made sure that we did. She had 6 high school diplomas sitting. She's 90 years old, still sitting on her mantle. If you try to take one of those mantles, those diplomas with your right hand, they're gonna be calling you lefty because you will lose it. Her mentality has always been education, and so having gone to a PWI at Texas A&M University, the largest school in Texas, most conservative school in Texas, I understood, one thing that I understand, and I was an ag major. So I'm a brother in the ag school at A&M. I'm the only one up in there, so figure that out. And so, but I figured out, I'm from Houston, and but my family was from Jasper and Texas, and so I learned how to speak. I'm bilingual. I can speak city and country. I'm country as hell, and I'm proud of it. And I figured out that people are people. At the end of the day, we have some, like I talked about Todd Gibbons. Todd and I disagree on three issues, abortion, guns, and something else. And everything else, we boys, we friends. And so I think sometimes people don't understand the human side of politics. I know y'all see it because y'all are seeing it. So you see guys who are Democrats, Republicans, and look like they fighting all the time. And behind closed doors, we go get a drink and we cool. I know the public doesn't want to believe that, but it's so true. And so my life story has been one of overcoming adversity, dealing with whatever comes at me. And, I had a praying mother, praying grandmother that wouldn't let me give up on myself. And so I always thought, why not me? Why not me? Why give up? As long as I have life, just keep taking advantage of it. And my colleagues, I was shocked when my colleagues said, "You're gonna be the leader of the caucus." I was like, "Whoa, okay." So y'all sure? Y'all want the black guy that been to jail? Okay, whatever. And so at the end of the day, it ended up working out, and I led us from the minority back into the majority. And people think Virginia's a blue state. We've only been in the majority like 4 years out of the last 25, 26 years, right? And so we have an opportunity to keep our majority this time, and that's my job. So, but you're right. I've had an interesting life. I still feel that pain in that kidney. I was telling somebody the other day, sometimes I'm like, oh, so I drink, and then I still drink my Diet Dr. Pepper. So,
That's
uh,
not good. That's not. I don't think doctors recommend that,
good
Mr.
for that
Speaker.
kidney. I know, but I'm running. I'm walking. I'm doing my weightlifting. I'm taking care of myself while I do it. So, but one of the things though, all of that stuff taught me though, Allison, is like it taught me empathy. I think one of the best traits of any leader is to be able to empathize and see people where they are. Um, the worst thing that happens to me will not be losing an election. So I don't take it as serious as some other folks. I've had some big losses and some big setbacks. And so you figure out how to come back from that. And I think that's what makes a great leader, being able to empathize with folks, not just be right on the policy, but be able to connect with people and meet them where they are.
Lastly, you talk about your friendship with Todd. I know you say, look, I'm a big believer in the Tip O'Neill strategy of having drinks with President Reagan back in the day, but I don't see that happening at all in DC. Do you think it happens in the national level, or are we just not hearing about it?
I think it happens. I think it probably doesn't happen as frequently as it needs to. I don't know where. I think people are now trying to prevent it from happening by what some of the language that they use in the vilified opponents of policy to make them the enemy within, and using language like that to try to dehumanize folks. But I think you can't sit in a committee room with somebody for 3 hours, and you need a Coke and they get you some coffee or some water, and you start talking about your kids, or your kids call, or somebody's sick. You can't stop that. You can't stop that interaction. It's going to happen. So I think eventually it will get back to that. I think in Virginia it happens often. You wouldn't know it by our current politics, but I can tell you yesterday, Winsome Sears, I had a colleague who lost her daughter yesterday. Saturday night, late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. She lost a daughter to sickle cell anemia, who's 15 years old. Um, a lot of us went up to see her. She was a Democrat. But I can tell you the Lieutenant Governor, Winsome Sears, went to knock on her door yesterday. I mean, there are, as bad as, as much as I don't like Winsome Sears' politics and her policy, she went and knocked on her door. That says a lot about who we are, and who we continue to be. I still believe that Americans' best days are in front of us. I think we got to get through this period where we hate each other right now, but we'll get past it. I just think the politics that, the leadership that we have right now to continue to hold power, it's in their best interest to make us hate each other, and not hate the billionaires that are getting the tax cuts, and not turn on them, but turn on each other, who none of us can pay our healthcare premiums. None of us can buy groceries. It's easier for us to look at it and hate each other, while the billionaires continue to cause havoc. But I think we're going to continue to move forward, and I think especially in state politics, I get to see speakers all over the country, Republicans and Democrats. I'm telling you, I see the camaraderie. I just went on a trip with some Republicans, hung out. Guess what? I was like, huh, this is weird. There's no MAGA. I don't feel the MAGA energy. The the MAGA energy is only on the floor, and it's all performative. I'm just going to tell you the truth. It's all performative.
Hmm. Well, Mr. Speaker, we like your optimism. It's really great to hear that you think that our best days are ahead and we're going to get past all this divisiveness. And it's really great to talk to you and hear your story too. So thanks so much for being on Sanity. It's really nice to
Thank you.
check
I
in.
appreciate y'all. Y'all are insane on sanity. Take care.